Bear's Paw Succulents. Got some? Want some? Curious about how to keep these cute little fuzzy green bulbous bitches happy? Listen, if you want your Cotyledon tomentosa to be swole like Sammy Sosa, then you better stick the f around, because we fit to get into all that shit. Hi there, I'm Smith Kingston, houseplant guru extraordinaire. Joining us today, we have Toby McSchmuter, Yabonton Melon, and the elusive Shadow Mantis. Listen, people, what brings us all together today is the acquisition of a couple of chubby, tender, plump, green, fuzzy, leafy, beautifully bulbous new friends known commonly as bear's paw succulents. The pokey claw-like tips on the ends of the fuzzy, chubby, bulbous green leaves of these plants make them quite easily recognizable. While most succulents are encumbered with a confusingly long list of widely accepted common names, these well-named succulents are pretty much only known commonly as bear's paw, though they are known to the scientific community as Cotyledon tomentosa. This specific duo, though, of freshly found fuzzy bulbous bitches are named Lakota and Thomas Baker. Thomas, though, seems to want to just be called Baker, and I'm cool with that. Real quick, both Baker and Lakota are a little bit shaken up. While normally I bring plants home from nurseries and farmers markets, these two arrived by mail after having been ordered on the internet. They don't seem to want to talk about it, but judging by the fact that they're both missing several leaves and the fact that the leaves that they have left are all covered in potting soil, I think it's safe to say that some shit went down while they were being shipped. Baker and Lakota are still in pretty good shape though, so I wouldn't go as far as to call this a rescue operation. Either way though, I think we can still have a great time learning all about how to take care of bear's paw succulents while giving these two slightly shocked bulbous beauties a mini makeover. Okay, if we're ready, then let's party. First, let's get Baker and Lakota out of these nursery pots and into something a little bit more comfortable. When repotting any plant, it is critical to be conscious of that plant's growing season, because the nature of the way a plant should be repotted will vary depending on whether the plant is dormant or actively growing. Bear's paw succulents are unusual in that they actually have two growing seasons during the year. These succulents go dormant during wintertime and midsummer and grow actively during springtime and in the fall. If we were repotting these two during their growing season, we would take more of an aggressive approach as far as replacing more of the soil nestled into their root systems, and maybe even take this opportunity to propagate some cuttings. Since we're repotting Baker and Lakota in early December though, we are going to be careful to disturb their roots as little as possible, since they won't be growing new ones anytime soon and their survival is entirely dependent on the roots they currently have.
Any ideas?
Another thing to remember when repotting bear's paw succulents is that they are succulents. Because of this, it is critical that they be potted into cactus mix or some other quick draining mixture of soil. Also, don't be a stupid ass dumb like Derek and mess around with non-draining plant containers. Be good to your plants and always pot every plant into a container with a drainage hole. They probably deserve it. Okay, now that Baker and Lakota have both been happily potted into their new houses, it's time we get serious for just a second and have a little chat about water. Again, bear's paws are succulents and they should be watered as such. which means allowing the soil inside of their containers to dry out completely in between each watering. As with most succulents, the roots protruding from the bases of these fuzzy green friends are highly susceptible to root rot, fungal infections, pests, and other complications that can be easily avoided if potted properly and watered correctly. To overwater these sweet little fuzzy green friends though is to print them a one-way ticket to a watery grave. Bear's paws will need to be watered just a little bit more often during spring and fall while they're actively growing, but in general, my advice when watering these particular paws is this. If you're even a little bit unsure whether your bear's paw plant needs to be watered, it is better to wait than to risk it. Way more succulents are killed by their keepers from being overwatered than underwatered, and that is a fact. Doctor? What? Okay, Shadow Mantis, from here, do we go into sunlight or propagation? Really? Nothing? Look, you guys, I don't know why ferns always gotta be so salty. Sunlight. Bear's paw succulents need lots of sun. It's recommended that they get 6 hours of direct sunlight every day. They can handle more than this and will survive with a little bit less, though over time they will end up looking a little bit leggy and stretched out. I'm planning on keeping Lakota and Baker in a south-facing window until May, and then I'll move them outside. This is the perfect plan for me personally because I live in the high desert of northeastern Arizona where it's pretty sunny all the time, even during winter. For you though, Melissa, you're probably not going to find a spot in your Seattle apartment that offers this much natural sunlight, and keeping your bear's paws happy might be just a little bit tricky. Luckily for you though, this houseplant guru extraordinaire knows the difference between what is tricky and what is impossible. If because of your zip code you don't think that you're going to be able to satisfy your succulents with natural sunlight, that's okay, because there are artificial alternatives as well, Melissa. Listen, propagating bear's paw succulents is pretty straightforward. If you got one but you want some more, then the best and most widely accepted method for achieving this goal is through propagating them from cuttings. I apologize for the verbal walkthrough of the propagation process as opposed to an actual visual walkthrough, but please bear in mind that this video is being filmed in early December, and though I do plan on making a video all about propagating these fuzzy green goobers in the near future, for now that is just not an option, at least if I want the cuttings to survive. To propagate your bear's paw from cuttings, simply chop off a bit of plant right above a set of leaves, nestle that bit of plant into a draining container full of dry cactus mix, keep it somewhere with no direct sunlight but tons of indirect sunlight, and then give it a good watering 21 days after cutting it. In order to ensure that your bear's paw cuttings have plenty of time to grow and establish a root system before going dormant, it's best to propagate them early on during one of their 2 growing seasons, so early spring or early fall. Also, in order to ensure that your cuttings have plenty of time to grow roots before drying out, it's best to take your cuttings between 3 and 6 days after having watered your plant. I've heard other YouTube plant care aficionados recommend using a rooting hormone, but in general, this is not necessary for succulents. If cut during their growing season, most succulents grow their own roots within 2 weeks of having been cut. And if kept in the right lighting, the cuttings of most succulents can survive for months without drying out. Bear's paw succulents are just such a plant. When it comes to propagating bear's paw succulents from leaves, I've heard several conflicting theories. Some say that bear's paw succulents can be propagated from leaves, but that it takes forever and is a highly inefficient way of propagating this plant. Others say that it simply cannot be done. Personally, I don't know who to believe, but one thing I do know is that whatever horrific slew of tragedies befell Baker and Lakota over the course of their journey to my house from wherever they were being kept before they were ordered has left me with this gigantic pile of loose bear's paw leaves. And I'm not gonna not put them on my propagation tray and spritz them every 2 to 3 days. Listen, Do you like bad graffiti, worse jokes, wacky macrame, and pretty good advice about how to take care of your houseplants? Well then f***ing subscribe! Thanks, Shadow Mantis. That's right, click that bell icon too so you never miss a new video.